Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Rise and Grind with 72 the Architect, aka Jason B. And welcome to my Stoic Circus. That's right, my Stoic Circus. This is a recorded podcast for YouTube, Facebook, and more. So we're also producing live here on Clubhouse as we get started. So stay tuned here as I get ready to begin, and we'll get going. All right, as we get going here, good morning to everybody who's going to be listening live or recorded or whatever part of the day it is for you. So let's just get into it. So, what is today's topic about? Today's topic is: Are you ready to be a leader and by doing your job? I think it's a very important topic to talk about because there are many people looking in transition and want to get paid well. They want to live with a more fulfilling life and they want to enjoy things that would truly matter to them. And getting admiration sometimes, or the good pats on the backs, recognition for their diligence, or maybe their expertise. But it also sometimes applies right at home. Work-life balance. You're a part of a family. You're leading maybe a focus group, or you're doing an essential part of helping the household run. It's all those things. So without any further ado, I read a quote that came from Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. He says, "One person on doing well by others immediately accounts for the expected favor in return. Another is not so quick, but still considers the other person a debtor and knows the favor. A third kind of person acts as if conscious of the deed, rather like a vine producing a cluster of grapes, without making further demands, like a horse after the race, or a dog after a walk, or a bee after making its honey. Such a person, having done a good deed, won't go shouting from the rooftops, but simply moves on to the next deed, just like the vine producing a bunch of grapes in the right season." So what does he really mean by that? And I feel like he means a lot of different things. He means, like, some people say, well, look what I've done, and I should be recognized because I've just done such great work. Check my work. It's exemplary. And really, what is their motive? To get a next leg up, to be able to see themselves in a way that where they are like, okay, I'm now calling shots and things will be run my way. But a lot of times in leadership, it's not about being the all powerful, all being in charge. It's not about people just having the slot or the role or so that they can call the rules. It's more like when a good leader is doing their best, do they understand what's at stake? A lot of times leadership goes thankless and also is the first to get blame. And you can be a leader by just even being a dad, a mom, a brother, a sister, a cousin, a friend, you know. And when things aren't going right in another's mind, how far are you responsible? And I like what Marcus really points out. But he also, what I get from it, he's looking at maturity. How do we look at maturity and how we scope? How does it like? How does it work? Maturity comes in so many different forms. Sometimes it's not by saying a whole lot, or maybe it's saying very little. Maybe it's you're doing more actions than you're talking about. That's really a heavy duty thing in the long run. And I always feel that if people are going to do their best, what is their real motive? Are you going to be motivated by, if you become a leader, you get paid more coin? Do you what's exactly happening here? Like, who gets what at the end of the day? And I think that's very important, that we should never forget that just because we're doing the good work doesn't mean you need to wait for the applause. It comes with a lot of different caveats, if you ask me. When you're a good leader, yes, you do take the first shot, the first blame. You do take a lot of different things when it comes your way. So it's like, well, what how do we handle all this? And what about when you're crumbling inside, but you can't show it to other people? How many times has there been moms and dads that just look at their children and saying, "I don't know how to handle this." I don't know what to do about this. This is very difficult for me too. And being vulnerable sometimes can be seen as a what do you call it? An admirable trait, but also can be seen like maybe that's your weakness. It really depends because you're not in charge of the people that see you. You're just in charge of who you are and what you represent. Some people may say that the most important thing of it all is do you represent your word into action and your action into word? Can I trust you? And how far can I trust you? If I find out something false, maybe in your background, do I need to discredit you or pay more closer attention? I think that's a very difficult, series of questions because at the end of the day, not all leaders can handle being in charge, but they grunt through it. They know that whatever they're in charge of is moving things forward. It's not always convenient to the best of us, but it's not always, to isolate one other person. The best example I could give you is when you look at politics today. Politicians promise more, and we talk about politicians even before they're elected. When we look at what can we do, how can we change things, it really comes down to I don't want to promise more than what I actually can give. But yet, every single time when you deal with politics, there's always an over promise and an under delivery. So what do we do about that? Well, here's my remedies for that. Exactly. Number 1, take in consider of what you understand of what your charge is. What is your real role? That's number 1. No matter what it is, whether it's in business or at home or a public group, so on and so forth. What does it really matter? It matters that what you allow and don't allow. And then the other thing is what are you curious? What will work? Are you going to be open to brand new ideas and concepts? A lot of us aren't open to concepts. We're not open to new things. Anytime something comes up of I don't know, guess what? People run. People start to get a little nervous. If you can't show them some kind of a surety or levity of like the situation being a benefit to them, they will run, they will scatter, they will talk, they will doubt you, even whether in front of you or behind your back. But at the end of it, do you understand why you want to lead? Like, there's times in leadership that I didn't understand why I wanted to lead, but I know it needed to be done because it was a part of what was working for. It was a part of my job. The it wasn't so much the consequence, but I can see the benefit of my experience helping others along. But when you take those hits, so to speak, those silent hits, those things when it doesn't make all sense and it's just like, why are they criticizing? This is a benefit to them. You know, can imagine it like when you're a kid and you're the older brother, and you have to see your sibling saying, "Well, I want to play with that now. It's mine too," or "This was me." But you have to understand that maybe there's times where it's better just to share and let someone else join the fun and join the play. I think that's very difficult for a lot of us nowadays. We have to understand that what we're sharing for doesn't mean that we're always getting a return. The return is when you have more to collaborate with, more to work with, then guess what? Everything works better. Everyone has an interest. Maybe what you grow out of, someone could grow interested in. I think it's very, very important that we never forget that. So throughout my days, throughout my time, what I actually see and what I actually notice comes down to how can I make the best impact, not just for my own good, but for those around me? Am I motivated for admiration? Do I want to just get like all this great hype and for what, what's the reason? And, I really had to like look at myself lately. What is my charge as a dad? I have to think about, what's in the best interest of my children and understand that maybe it's making me emotionally uncomfortable, but I'm going to see my way through. I'm going to see my way to understand, like, look, my guidance, my leadership for them is to help them become a human being, not to help them, or no, to help them become a greater human being and not what I want them. That means, like, let's say the best way I could exemplify it would be when a kid wants to be a career, say, like, when they say, "Daddy, I wanna be a fireman," or "I wanna be a dentist," and they're at 9 years old, but then at 15, they change their whole mind, and you do everything you could starting from that age when they decided, "Well, I wanna do this," and then it irks you, and it's like, "Wait a minute, um, you said you wanted to be a dentist, but now you're changing your mind," and they get mad at you because you can't accept where their new role wants to be. I think that's very important to look at, what is their motive and their role to becoming the best them. I think it's very difficult for a lot of us to understand, like, when someone changes their mind, even though they had such strong intent that, just because they change their mind. But a leader, see, in my opinion, a true leader is one who understands exactly, okay, you want to become this. That's fine. Cool. Great. You know, and we have to really look out we want them to, um, appreciate our guidance to help them become a better human being, you know? Do they understand when you have to say no as a parent, sometimes it kills you. There's times where you can't afford stuff, and it's like, I remember there's times where my daughter Bella would tell me, I had promised her early in the year we'd go to Disneyland, and then I'd have to back out of that promise because financial times were tough. Things came up, repairs for cars, clothes, school, all these things came up, right? They came up. And see, are you sure? No, I don't want to do that. But when I understood it all, when I had to say no, or I had to change my mind, it's like, look, unfortunately, we just can't right now. But there's that but when you're a parent, and just say, well, we're going to work on this on a better time, and it's going to hopefully be sooner than later. I think that's what the real takeaway is. When you're in leadership, not everyone's going to see or understand your message. They're not going to get it. They're not going to understand why you have to do the things. But as you're shaping their mind, you're going to understand how you're helping them make their own independent choice without taking away their dreams. I think that's one thing that I could say I can definitely relate to, is not wanting to take away my child's view, and their dreams. At 15, if my daughter wants to be a dancer, or if she wants to be a world-class swimmer or a lawyer or a doctor, whatever she wants to be, she has time. My job is to prepare her to make sure that she chooses the best choice for herself. And that means also taking a step back, not necessarily being instrumental and weeding out what doesn't belong, but there's times where I have to say no to hanging out with certain friends, or, you know what, bedtime's 9 o'clock. There's a reason for this. If it takes you so long to get to sleep, I'm doing my job. It's thankless. I think as a dad, speaking retroactively, is that there's a lot of things that we do that you don't understand. And this is a little moment for my daughters to recognize. I may not have always made the best decisions in the situation, but I try to make the best decisions for you. And I hope that you become the people that you need to become, for your best self, to enjoy and not be weighed down by society so much. Society can weigh a lot of impressions, but it's how you negate those impressions, and so on and so forth. Well, that's really it. Are you ready to lead by doing your work? Regardless of your payment, regardless of your compensation, are you going to continue to do your best? I think that's really the big takeaway. Anyhow, that's all the time that I have for today in my Stoic Circus. Today's actually probably episode 1. I hope that you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you haven't done so. Leave a comment on any of the platforms. And also come by and join me on Clubhouse. Look for my Stoic Circus. I'm 72 the Architect, and we'll see you next time. Take care.